Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandegam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Sakitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Again, welcome to our weekly study of Bhagavad-gita. So we are continuing on the second chapter of Bhagavad-gita. So we covered till second chapter, 20th verse, I think last week. So we are going to continue on the second chapter. So as I said, second chapter contains 5 sections, right? So the first section is Arjuna's further doubts and surrender to Krishna, and then which is verses 2.1 to 2.10, and then second section is Jnana, Krishna is giving Atma Jnana, knowledge of the soul, knowledge of the self, who we are, that we are all eternal spirit souls. And then based on that, he is telling that he should stand up and fight. And then section 3 is Karma Kanda, and then conclusion is that because of duty, one has to fight. And then Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga, he's saying fight. And then symptoms of a self-realized person, Sthita Prajna, Samadhi, and then fight. These are the 5 sections. So we are in section 2, which is, Atma Jnana, knowledge of the self. As we saw before last week, that this chapter, second chapter, is called in Sanskrit called Sankhya Yoga. Literally the word Sankhya in Sanskrit means literally to count, or literally, the analytical study of matter and spirit. By studying both matter and spirit, right, one can understand. From last week we saw that soul, spirit is eternal and matter is temporary, So, and then we saw that 3 key important slokas that, Krishna gave in the beginning of this section, 2.12, 13, 14, right? Natvevaham jatanasam natvan me janatipaha nachevana bhavishyamaha sarve vayam ataparam. There was never a time I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. There will never be a time we will all cease to be, right? Krishna is telling we are all eternal spirit souls. We existed in the past as individuals. We are existing now as individuals. We will continue to exist in future also as individual eternal spirit souls. And the next verse he says that what then, if we are all eternal spirit soul, then what the body is? The body is a temporary one which is changing, ever changing one, right? Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tada dehandra praptir dhirastatra namuhyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly at the time of death, right? The soul passes on to another body. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. And then when you put this eternal spirit, soul, and temporary material body together, then comes this incompatibility, right? Krishna tells in 2.14, Matrash Parshastu Kavanteya, Sidoshna Shukadakada, Agama Paino Anityas, Tamsha Tidikshava Bharata. Right? He's telling that, right, like non-permanent appearance of the summer and winter season, right? The non-permanent appearance, happiness and suffering in this world is like appearance of summer and winter season. They come and go, right? One has to learn to tolerate. They arise, this duality arises because of the sense perception. The senses perceive things in this world and then give it to the mind, and through the mind, when we identify ourselves with the body, right, then we experience this duality, right? Heat and cold, good and bad, honor and dishonor, right and wrong, right? This can love and hate. All this dualities arises because because due to our false ego, we misidentify ourselves with this body. And then when we misidentify ourselves with the body, we perceive all the things happening through the mind and through the senses, right? Then we are not able to see things properly, right? So hence we experience this duality. So now I will just read the last verse, 2.20, what we covered last week. So sorry, still I couldn't send the recording yet because I'm still working on it. So then I am trying to edit and create the proper files. So I will send it out for sure this week. So yeah, 2.20 is the verse last week we saw, right? Krishna is telling, for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain, right? So here it is very clearly given, the soul neither takes birth or death anytime because it is eternal. Then what takes birth is the body, right? And what dies? The body. What is birth, right? When the soul enters into the womb of a mother, right? Then based on its past desires, right? Based on what he deserved and what he desired, a particular type of material body is given, right? First of all, he is placed in a particular womb of a mother, either in human species or animal species or whatever species it might be, based on his destiny, based on what he had desired and deserved in the previous life. When he placed in this womb based on a particular desire, right, then based to fulfill those desires and to give those reactions, karma, right, either good or bad, then a particular type of body is given. That blueprint for that body is there in the mind based on our past activities and desires. So based on that blueprint, a body develops around the soul. At some point of time, right, the body comes out of the womb, that we call it as event of birth, right? And then what we call it as death is when the soul leaves the body. So in this entire process, right, the soul always exists, right? The body is the one which comes and goes, right? So that is very important for us to understand. This is a very important principle. This is the first, to an extent, this is the first, principle one has to understand. Before even understand this, or at least theoretically accept it, spirituality doesn't begin, right? So there is matter and spirit. Life comes because of spirit, and then matter is temporary. It comes and goes. The matter is ever changing because of the presence of the soul. As long as the soul is present, right, the matter animates or moves. So 2.21. Veda vinashinam nityam yayenam ajam avyayam katamsha purusha partha kam gatayati hantikam. O Partha, how can a person who knows that soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Everything has its proper utility. And a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. Similarly, violence also has its utility, and how to apply violence rests with a person in knowledge. Although the justice of peace awards capital punishment to a person condemned for murder, the justice of peace cannot be blamed because he orders violence to another person according to the codes of justice. In Manu Samhita, the law book for mankind, it is supported that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in his next life he will not have to suffer for the great sin he has committed. Therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer in is actually beneficial. Similarly, when Krishna orders fighting, it must be concluded that violence is for supreme justice. And thus, Arjuna should follow the instruction, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fighting for Krishna is not violence at all. At any rate, the man or the rather the soul cannot be killed. So, for the administration of justice, so-called violence is permitted. A surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge. So there is no possibility of sinful reaction. Here, right, in this verse, Prabhupada is hinting that because previously Arjuna exhibited the doubt that by killing all the great personalities like Bhishma and Drona, right, and all his relatives, he might incur sinful reaction. He might have to spend, several lifetimes in hell. So here it is indicated that because he is working under the direction of Krishna, it is for the higher cause he is doing this, right? So one has to always understand the principles, right? Needs to be understood. What is the uber guiding principle, right? Here, Krishna's goal is to establish dharma. Krishna descended into this material world to start with, right? If you read Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharata, we can understand, right? When the earth was filled with all these demoniac kings, she was not able to bear the weight of their sinful activities. So Mother Earth took a form of a cow and went to Lord Brahma. And to Lord Brahma, she mentioned that how she is not able to bear the weight because of all the adharmic activities happening on the earth. So then Brahmaji thought about it, and then he realized that he did not have a solution for it. Then, along with Lord Shiva and all the Devatas, they all went to the shore of the milk ocean, right? Shirashagaram, right? So the milk ocean is the residence of Shiro Dakashai Vishnu, right? He is the Paramatma in everyone's heart. So his residence is in the middle of milk ocean, right? Svetadip. There, right, he is like lying down on Anantashesh, and Mother Lakshmi is like, serving him by massaging his feet, and he is actually in that yoga nidra, right? He is like, he is there in that bliss. So when all the devatas offer the prayers the devatas offer to the Lord, it's called Purusha Shupta prayers. It is mentioned in the Rig Veda. These prayers are mentioned in the Rig Vedas. The Purusha Shupta prayers, when it was offered, whenever they are in difficulty, the devatas offer this prayer. When they offer this prayer, immediately Lord knew what the situation is and what needs to be done. Immediately in the heart of Brahma, he spoke, right? Okay, I understand. Now inform all the devatas to take birth in various families, and I will also soon appear in the earth, and then I will, give solution to the problem of Mother Earth. So later, all the devatas took birth in various families, and then Lord also takes birth. So he takes birth in the womb of Mother Devaki. He appears in the family of Vasudeva and Mother Devaki. And then later, by his instruction, Lord moves to, Vasudeva carries him to Gokul Mahavan or Vrindavan. From Mathura, he goes across Yamuna to Nanda Maharaj. So at Nanda Maharaj place, Krishna grows, actually stays there till 9 years, and then he comes to Mathura and then kills Kamsa and liberates his father and mother from the jail, from the prison house, and then he establishes his grandfather, Surasena, as the king, and then later he moves the kingdom to Dwarka, and all that happens, and then he guides the Pandavas. And then now we all know the gambling match between Pandavas and Kauravas. In that, Pandavas lost, and they went to the forest, and then when they came back, they were not given the kingdom. And then Lord Krishna goes in a peace mission to, at least he asked Duryodhana to give at least 5 villages so that they can do their prescribed duty. As a Kshatriya, right, they cannot go and do some other thing than what the prescribed duty is. Their prescribed duty is to administer. To administer, they at least needed 5 villages. Now Duryodhana was not even willing to give that. And because there is no choice, Krishna very well knew that this is what going to happen, because his whole mission into this earth is to assemble all these demoniac kings in one place and annihilate them. He knew very well it's going to happen, but still he obliged to the words of Yudhishthira Maharaj. He tried the peace mission. So when the peace mission failed, inevitably the war was declared, and then beginning of the war, right, all the parties are assembled in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. That's where this conversation is happening, So Lord appeared here to annihilate all the miscreants. We will see later, right, in the 4th chapter, Krishna tells why he appears millennium after millennium, right? Paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samsaparthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He is telling, I appear millennium after millennium in this universe and this world, right, to deliver my devotees or to protect my devotees, to annihilate the miscreants and to establish dharma, right? That's the reason Lord appears. So here he is giving guidance to Arjuna that you have to stand up and fight, right? You are a responsible person. You are a responsible Kshatriya. Now we had assembled already. We tried all the peace mission. It failed. Now you cannot back out. That is actually will not be good for you. And he is telling, fight. Now he is telling here in this verse, how can a person who knows, right, the soul is indestructible, how can he back off from the duty? Right? You can never kill the person. So here Prabhupada is telling that does not give license to go and kill somebody left and right. Right? It has to be authorized. In this case, Arjuna was working under the direction of Krishna. Right? So like we all know, right? When somebody is in a military trains that person, authorizes that person, sends the battlefield. When he kills the enemy soldiers, he was given medal or award, right? But the same person, if he commits murder, right, using the same gun given by the government in the home territory, he will be put in jail. In fact, he might be, hanged. You might be given death sentence. So the difference is one is authorized, another is unauthorized. So here Prabhupada also telling everything has its proper utility, even violence do, right? If you give the knife in the hand of a surgeon, he will save the life. If you give the same knife to a murderer, he will take a life, right? Knife as it is neither good or nor bad. It depends on how it is used. Similarly, violence, right, has its own utility. Violence is neither good or nor bad. It depends on how it is administered, for what purpose, whom it's administering it, right? A knife given in a surgeon's hand, right, for the purpose of removing excess growth in the body, right? That is actually, the intention is to save the life. Here, the intention is to establish dharma. In that case, right, Arjuna has to stand up and fight. If there is a paddy field, right, in the paddy field, there is like paddy plants are there, as well as weeds are there. One has to remove the weed so that the paddy can nicely grow and give the yield, right? One cannot say, oh, I will not remove the weeds, because, that is also life, So everything is actually has to be looked with proper perspective. Violence is neither good nor bad. It depends on how it is used. So next verse, 22. Vashamshi jirnani yata vihaya navani ghignati naro parani tata sarirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Change of body by the atomic individual soul is an accepted fact. Even the modern scientists who do not believe in the existence of the soul, but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from heart, have to accept continuous changes of body which appears from childhood to boyhood, from boyhood to youth, and again from youth to old age. From old age, the change is transferred to another body. This has already been explained in the previous verse, right? 2.13. Transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the super soul. The super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. The Vedas, like Mundaka Upanishad as well as the Svetasthara Upanishad, compare the soul and super soul, two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the individual soul, is eating from the same eating the fruit of the tree, and the other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are in same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree, and while other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. Krishna is the witnessing friend, and Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master and the other is the servant. Forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another, or from one body to another. The Jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body. But as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntary surrender unto Krishna for instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentations. Both the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.2 and Svetasthara Upanishad 4.7 confirms this. Samani vrikshe purusho nimagno nishaya shochati mukhyamanaha. Right? Jushtam yada pashyati anyam isham asya mahinimanam iti vita shokaha. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree. But if in some way or the other he turns his face to his friend, the Lord, and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. Although Arjuna has now turned his face towards his eternal friend Krishna, and is understanding the Bhagavad-gita from him, and thus hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. Arjuna is advised here by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight, so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from various bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to higher status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation. So here, this last paragraph is very, very important. See, here, killing is not simply justified. Death is a fact of life. Here, Arjuna's main lamentation is especially his grandfather and his guru. Here, it is very clearly, they are already in old body. They are going through reactions of the previous life in the current body. Currently, they are in suffering only. Here, the war have been declared, right? It was agreed by both the parties to fight the war. Now, in this war, after deciding that we have to fight the war, he cannot lament based on this cause that he is going to kill his grandfather. Here, he should understand that in this war, because this war has to be done to discharge his prescribed duty, war has to be fought to uphold the dharma. That's his duty. But in the process, if he gets killed, he will get elevated. If his grandfather and guru gets killed, they will get purified and they will get elevated as well. So one has to understand, for a Kshatriya, the dharma is the highest destination is awarded when he stands up for the cause of dharma, to protect dharma, and he stands up and fight. If he wins, right, it's good in this life. If he dies, still, right, he goes to higher planets or higher destiny. So for a Kshatriya, right, when the war comes for the just cause, for the right cause, they grab it with both hands. They see that as an opportunity to elevate themselves. So once one should, here there is no way killing is justified. Here it is, we have to understand, to discharge dharma, to protect dharma, this has to be done, right? I always give this example, right? There are two brothers, right? There is one elder brother and younger brother. From the childhood, they were very close to each other. Her mother loves both of them very well. Her mother told the elder brother always to protect and take care of his younger brother. The promise he had given to his mother that he will always take care of his brother. So over the period of time, his mother passes away, and then both the children, by destiny, they become two different personalities, right? One had become a thief, another had become a policeman. So later, there was an emergency call made from a house that there is a thief in their house and he is trying to kill them. The call comes to the police station. The police is discharged to the house. This happened to be our elder brother. When he came and saw that, right, there is a person, the door is locked. Inside that, there is a person standing with a knife, right, to kill the residents of that house. The knife was in the throat. He was like threatening those residents to, to find out where their possessions are, right? He couldn't see the face. That he saw that there is a thief with a knife in his hand, but he comes inside with his gun, right, to shoot him down. When he was about to shoot him down, he saw the face that happened to his younger brother. At this time, right, now the dilemma. What is the dilemma? Should I shoot or not? Because I had given a promise to my mother that I will always protect, right, my younger brother. But here is two innocent people who are helpless in this situation, and I have a duty to protect. As a policeman, I have the duty to protect the citizen. In this case, the citizens are in a weaker position, and here is a thief who is trying to take the life, who happened to be my younger brother. The dilemma is to fight or not fight, right? To kill or not to kill. But if you understand properly, right, he had taken a vow at the time of taking his duty as a police officer, right? What is the duty? To uphold law. In spite of whatever circumstance it might be, to his best of his ability, he had taken a vow, to best of my ability, I will uphold the law of the land for the benefit of common people. That's the vow he had taken. There are two vows here, right? One is the vow given to mother, and this vow is given to the public or to the government. Now, which is, in this case, this is called Dharma Sankat. Dharma Sankat means there are two things, right? If you do this bad, if you do that bad, like that it comes, then one has to understand the higher principle. The higher principle is always to protect the weak, right? The stronger should always protect the weak. That is the higher principle. If you apply the higher principle, immediately one can understand, right, that one can understand very clearly that I have to in this case, the police officer has to, kill or arrest his son, arrest his younger brother. Here, even though he had given a vow to protect always his younger brother, in this case, to protect the weaker, in this case, this common citizen who are kept under captivity by this thief, they need to be protected. That's the principle. Here, right, Bhishma and Drona, right, they have taken the side of Duryodhana. Because they were the residents of the palace, because of that, they're bound to support Duryodhana. Because especially Bhishma had given a vow earlier to his mother Satyavati and his father, he will always protect the kingdom, right? He will always protect the throne. That's why he was not able to discharge his duty properly to Draupadi. When Draupadi asked the question, right, after the gambling match, when Draupadi was brought to the court, right, before disrobing, right, when this Dushasana was trying to disrobe her, like the Draupadi went to Bhishma and asked for justice, right, whether her husbands lost themselves first or they lost Draupadi first in the gambling match. So if they lost themselves first, do they have a right to gamble Draupadi again? That's the question she asked. At that time, Bhishma did not give proper answer because he kept silent. She said like, oh, dharma is sometimes, it's very difficult to find what is the right thing. Because he is bound by the earlier promise he made to his mother and his father that he will always protect the throne. But in that case, he made a mistake, right? That's why, later he was made to pay the price. That later he has to be killed in the war. So even a great personality, great devotee like Bhishma, if he does not uphold the prince, even though he is a devotee of the Lord, because he did not protect the weaker, in this case Draupadi, Kshatriya's principle is always to protect the weaker. So in this case he did not do it. He did not protect dharma. Hence there is a consequence. So here Arjuna's situation is exactly like this police officer we discussed. One should understand, this is how one can make decision. There is always a uber guiding principle. Ultimately, what will please the Supreme Lord? Upholding the dharma. Right? For the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, one has to discharge his duty. In this case, Arjuna, he has to stand up and fight. So that is what in this last paragraph Prabhupada is giving. Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change for his old grandfather. Right? One should not mistake this. Next verse, 23. Nainam chintanti shastrani, nainam dagati pavakaha, nachainam kladiyantyopo, nashochati marutaha. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So here is another very important sloka. The characteristics of the living entity, the soul, is given here, right? The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Here write all the 5 things. For the 4 things given, the grass weapon, or like a little more subtler than the grass weapon is the fire, and then water or wind, right? Earth, water, fire, and ether. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the 5 elements. Here Krishna is telling none of them can affect because they are all material and soul is spiritual. Soul is anti-material or spiritual, and these things are made up of material elements. Material things can never affect the soul because the soul is transcendental to the matter. Right? Purport. All kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons, etc. are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kind of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc. in addition to the modern weapons of fire. Even the nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons. But formerly, there were other weapons made of all different types of material elements. Fire weapons were counteracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces, nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices. The Mayavadi cannot explain how individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently be covered by the illusory energy. Nor has it ever possible to cut the individual souls from original supreme soul. Rather, the individual souls are eternally separated parts of the supreme soul. Because they are atomic individual souls, eternally, sanatana, they are prone to be covered by illusory energy. And thus, they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord, just as sparks of a fire, although one in quality with fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. In the Varaha Purana, the living entities are described as separated parts and parcel of the Supreme. They are eternally so, according to Bhagavad-gita also. So even after being liberated from illusion, the living entity remains a separate entity, as is evident from the teachings of the Lord to Arjuna. Arjuna became liberated by the knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. When we say one with Krishna, he does not become Krishna. He becomes one with in purpose with Krishna, right? So this has to be understood. When we say become one with Krishna, he does not become one with Krishna in identity, right? He becomes one in purpose with Krishna. Next verse. Achedyoyam adayoyam akledyo ashoshayevacha nitya sarva gatastanur achaloyam sanatanaha. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can neither be burnt nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. This is very, very important. Further characteristics of the soul is given here, right? The individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, and can neither be burnt nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable and immovable, and eternally the same. All this purport, all these qualifications of the atomic soul definitely prove that the individual soul is eternally the atomic particle of the spirit whole. And he remains the same atom eternally without change. The theory of monism is very difficult to apply in this case because the individual soul is never expected to become one homogeneously. After liberation from material contamination, the atomic soul may prefer to remain as individual's spiritual spark in the effulgent rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the intelligent souls enter into the spiritual planets to associate with the Personality of Godhead. The word Sarvagata, all pervading, is significant because there is no doubt that living entities are all over God's creation. They live on the land, in the water, in the air, and within earth, and even within fire. The belief that they are sterilized in fire is not acceptable because it is clearly stated here that the soul cannot be burned by fire. Therefore, there is no doubt that there are living entities also in the sun planet with suitable bodies to live there. If the sun globe is uninhabited, then the word Sarvagata, living everywhere, becomes meaningless. So here it is very clearly mentioned. This very important word, Sarvagata, means all pervading. It is there everywhere. Soul is present in entire creation, whether in the earth planet, the higher planet, moon planet, or sun planet. They all exist by possessing an appropriate body, right? In the earth, predominantly, our body is made up of water, right? Similarly, in the sun planet, one's body will be predominantly made up of fire. In somebody is, in the Brahma's planet, right? Predominantly, his body will be made up of intelligence. Like that, according to the environment, a suitable type of body is given to the living entity, right? Brahma's body is considered to be full of intelligence. His whole body is full of intelligence. So that is why when Brahma makes a mistake, right, his whole body gets contaminated because when he makes a wrong decision, right? In Bhagavatam, when we'll read in Bhagavatam, it comes, right? When one time when Brahma, right, he had a wrongful desire. Because when he realized that he made a mistake by having this wrongful desire, immediately he gives up the body and gets another body, takes another body. Because in order to do his duty of creation, right, his body cannot be contaminated because his whole body is made up of intelligence. So according to the living entity's environment where it is placed, a particular type of body will be given. Of this there is no doubt. Next verse. Avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmat evam viditvainam nanushochitam arhasi. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Right? Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Purport. As described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that he cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he is invisible. As far as the soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti or Vedic wisdom. Here it is very clearly given. By any amount of material experiment, right, one cannot identify the soul. One can only infer the existence of the soul. Right? Because none of the material elements or material senses will be useful to find out the soul. So hence existence of souls cannot be proved by material experiments except by Shastric, proof. The words of Shruti. We have to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of the soul, although it is a fact by perception. As we saw that by perception, by inference, we can say as long as consciousness is there, we know that soul is there. Can we prove the existence of soul? No, we cannot prove through material means. But we have to accept the Shabda Pramana, the evidence. The three types of evidence we saw, right? Pratyaksha Pramana, empirical proof. Anumana Pramana, right? Proof through inference. And then Shabda Pramana, right? Proof from the authorities. Like Shabda Pramana, words of the Vedas, words of the Shruti. Right? That's the only way to understand. There are many things we have to accept solely on the grounds of superior authority. No one can deny the existence of his father based upon the authority of his mother. Based on the authority of his mother. There is no source of understanding the identity of the father except by the authority of the mother. Similarly, there is no source of understanding the soul except by studying the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. The soul is conscious. The soul is consciousness and conscious. That also is the statement of the Vedas. We have to accept that. Unlike the bodily changes, there is no change in the soul. As eternally unchangeable, the soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite supreme soul. The supreme soul is infinite and the atomic soul is infinitesimal. Right? The super soul is Vibhu, infinite. The individual Jivatma, right? Individual spirit soul is Anu, right? Infinitesimal. Therefore, the infinitesimal soul, being unchangeable, can never become equal to the infinite soul or the supreme personality of Godhead. This concept is repeated in the Vedas in different ways just to confirm the stability of the conception of the soul. Repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error, right? So here, Prabhupada is telling why the same fact is many times repeated, because to establish this truth properly so that one does not misunderstand, right? So by scriptural proof, we can know that spirit soul exists. From that assumption that spirit soul exists, when we conduct experiment, we can infer that yes, this is all happening because of the spirit soul. Without that, it is not possible, because spirit soul is anti-material or spirit. It cannot be detected by any material experiments. So at this point, we will stop here. So we covered up to 25. I think we are going almost like 5 shlokas per session. I think that is a reasonable speed. So some places maybe we can go a little faster. So any comments, questions at this time? I see that there are a few new faces are there. So new.
Thank you so much for changing the timings, and that is really helpful.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. You're welcome. So as I mentioned before, I will send out, I didn't get a chance to send out the key shlokas, the recordings of the key shlokas yet. Definitely I will send it out this week. Because those shlokas, the entire Bhagavad-gita is recited by chapter. So I have to take those each of the chapters and cut those MP3s as individual shlokas, and then I will send the Word document and the corresponding individual files so that it is easy to memorize.
Right. And when you send those, you will send from which adhyay and which verse it is coming.
Yes. I'll put the file name with the file. It will be like BG 2.13, 2.14, like that it will be there.
Right.
The files will be named like that.
Thank you.
Yes. So any other comments, questions at this time? Any doubts? I see some new faces are there. Challa Arjuna. So maybe you can introduce yourself. Okay, great, fantastic. Is this pace, the speed in which we are covering, is it all right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Now, because we're in the beginning of the Bhagavad-gita, we are going a little slower only. And as we progress more and more, especially after like first six chapters, the pace will definitely increase a lot faster. Our goal is, not just completing. Our goal is to properly understand,
Yes.
So that's what it is mentioned. Even one, shloka from Bhagavad-gita, one understands properly, he will be rightly situated, and his journey will be direct, in his direction of the journey will be in the right direction, Okay. So any comments? If not, so we will come to conclusion here. So this is the timing we will keep. Exactly 5:30 we will start. Today I was little couple of minutes late because I was just running around here and there. So from next week onwards, I will start the session at 5:25 itself. So I will keep the session on so that everybody is there inside, and then I will be ready, and then we will do the kirtan little bit, and I'm also doing the little shorter kirtan, and then we will immediately jump into the slokas.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So also I will send out the recordings of all the previous sessions are there. Some of you are new who have time. You can go through the sessions. They are like all numbered, session 1, session 2, session 3, like that. I highly recommend going through all of them from the beginning patiently, because a lot of concepts we covered, still it's not that you cannot attend now. If you catch up with all those sessions slowly, so a lot of things, become more clear and clearer. So I will send down every week. I'm sending down the link. This week again, I will send the link, to those previous sessions recordings. The introduction to Gita, these are 9 sessions we gave. So those gives the overview of the Gita to understand all the key constructs or the principles required to understand Bhagavad-gita.
So we just download into Google Drive, right?
Yeah, it is there in Google. It's already in Google Drive. So if you open in your Google Drive app, those files, it will come into your local phone or device, whichever it is.
I see. Okay.
And then from there you can always play without even internet as well.
Okay. Thank you.
That is for the audio files, but for the videos, they are all existing in the in the documents. The videos will be always existing in YouTube only, you know.
Okay.
And YouTube, I think there is an option to download it locally and keep it as well if you don't want to use the internet. The documents and the PowerPoints and documents, they are all in Google Drive. And then the videos are all there in the YouTube link.
So YouTube also can be heard offline.
Yes. In the YouTube mobile app, I think there is an option to keep it offline. Make the video offline available. Like that, you can make it offline available, those videos, if you want to.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.